our heads and blink our... Good guys say 3 different sentences. We even turn our heads and blink our eyes when you talk to us.
You hear that, you son of a bitch?
Right, Oscar?
Hi, I'm Oscar, and I'm your friend to the end. Wow!
I'm gonna get you, and I'm gonna get Eddie, no matter what!
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
You know what they say. You just can't keep a good guy down.
Alright, take it away. Cody.
Are we good?
Yep.
We are live?
Yep.
Alright guys, so for anybody that did not already see that when I posted it, that is obviously a teaser for this year's 31 on 31. What other franchises are we going to be doing? You'll find out in due time. But joining me are some of my maniacs from Scream Stream. We've got CP from WILIscredia. Say hello, CP.
Hi, CP.
And we also have the man, the myth, the legend with the crazy ass ranking, Bryan Lomax. Movie Talk.
Kiwi!
So, obviously it's still Chucky week up in my house, so we wanted to get together since we couldn't do a Scream stream. We wanted to get together with us 3 that have seen the film and discuss full-on spoilers. So if you have not seen the film, we are going to be getting through every detail of it. Might talk a little bit overall franchise, but for the most part, just talking about this brand new Child's Play remake, which 2 of us liked quite a bit. 1 of us was a little lukewarm, but still liked it. You know, nobody in the stream hated it. So should be some interesting opinions on what's good, what's bad, what they could do better, and maybe what they could fix for the future. So I guess we'll start with Bryan. Bryan, what was your expectations going into Child's Play 2019? Your kind of your attachment level to the franchise, and then some maybe quick thoughts on what you thought of the movie.
Well, I've always had a big attachment to that first film, that original film, because that was one of the first horror films I ever saw, and we loved it as a kid. Like me dad, my 2 brothers, and me, we must have seen it like 20 odd times when I was a little kid. So yeah, big attachment to that. Yet bizarrely, I'd only ever seen after that Child's Play 2 and 3 once each when I was a teenager. And when I was a teenager, I wasn't overly impressed, it must be said. I didn't warm to them all that much. I didn't see the point. And then recently, well, last year, I watched Cult of Chucky. And I obviously, not having seen the ones that preceded that, I clearly didn't know whether I was really missing stuff or what. And so
you weren't.
yeah,
It's just weird.
yeah. So I didn't feel like I could judge that one properly. So like recently, I've gone back. I've watched all of them from that original right up to the remake. And yeah, for me, the original is still far and away the best. It's a unique film. I think the sequels do lose something for whatever reason. I think it's that 80s kind of thing where you create something that it turns out to be gold, or the main character, the main killer in it turns out to be iconic. And then the sequels become so much about them and their personality writ large that it kind of ceases to be about the story as much. Whereas, like I say, the original film does tend to be more story based. And I do like that original film for that reason. But yeah, I like them all. I wouldn't say there's a truly bad film among them in the way that, like, I look at Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's Dead jumps right at me. I would never want to watch that film by choice again, ever, as long as I can live. Halloween Resurrection, never again, thank you very much. Whereas, yeah, like I say, there's not a single Chucky film, for me personally, that that I would say I don't ever want to see that again ever. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I agree. I've said for a long time, and this was actually before Cult came out, but I would still pretty much say it after Cult, that Child's Play and Scream are the most like quality consistent of the slasher franchises. Because like you said, Freddy's got obvious peaks and valleys. Jason's got obvious peaks and valleys. Michael's got obvious peaks and valleys. But for the most part, Chucky stayed pretty consistent. I have a couple of movies that I would say are bad Child's Play films, so I'm not quite as warm on the two of those. But overall, even with those, I would agree with you. So CP, same questions.
Since Pet Sematary was a just absolute disaster this year, I kind of lowered my expectations. Again, to echo things Brian said, Child's Play isn't up near the top for me, but I'll agree with something you said. That we talked about this in another stream we did, where I feel like the ceiling might be lower for Child's Play, but the floor is higher. So, there's not spectacularly great, but again, there's not terribly awful. There's very solid, consistent mix of movies. So, I wasn't too pumped up, and Pet Sematary just being awful kind of lowered my expectations further, where it's just like, listen, this may not be the year for remakes. And I was thoroughly pleased with the movie. I said it in my ranking. Child's Play 2019, there's some social commentary going on in that movie, and it's not often you get social commentary in a rinse and repeat slasher, and this has something to say, and for all of you #NotMyChuckies, you're missing out, man. Get past a doll, because this movie's got something more to it.
Yeah, I agree with you. We'll get into it, but it's good that it doesn't really beat you over the head with its message either. Like, there was something that Brian was talking about, which is like the role of parenting, which didn't quite click for me the first time, but when I saw it the second time, I saw it all over the film, and I was like, wow, that really bleeds into Chucky and Andy's relationship and everything, and it's really like it's a really underlying message that's there that if you want to take the movie at face value, it's just a fun little killer doll movie, but there's plenty to chew on if you stick with it for a while. So yeah, everybody knows my experience with Child's Play, but I'll go through it real quick. Like, this is, alongside Nightmare on Elm Street, my favorite of the slasher franchises. I grew up watching Freddy and Chucky. Those are my two guys. Child's Play 3 is like the slasher movie that got me into horror. I've always loved the first four movies to death. Bride was the first one I saw in theaters. Had my heart broke by Seed, but they won it back with Curse and then crushed it again with Cult. So it's been a little bit of a rocky road with me since Mancini's taken the wheel. But I've always been pro Child's Play 2019. I thought that the different angles that they were taking sounded interesting. I'm somebody that I've always said, if you're going to remake a movie that's considered a classic like Child's Play, you need to go in some wildly different directions. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. And they did that. But for better or worse, whether you love it or hate it, they took it in a completely different direction. They took a lot of risks, had a lot of balls with some of the things that they did. Some of them didn't pay off. A lot of it did. But I really enjoyed the film. And the second time that I watched it, I liked it even more. So I would actually, if I was to redo my ranking or my review, I would actually bump it from 3.75 to 4 at this point. Because that second watch, pretty much everything worked even better for me. So I really enjoyed it. I guess what we'll start off with, we'll get the big one out of the way first, and then we can start talking about the story. So let's talk about what we thought about this new Chucky, the buddy doll Chucky, Mark Hamill's performance, the way that they utilize him. And again, I'll kick it off to Brian first.
Yeah, it is a bit of a stumbling block for me. And I freely admit that that's my problem, not the film's, because I am someone who believes that if you do a remake, there's no point doing a rehash. There's no point doing beat for beat, note for note. We've seen it. If you're going to remake something, then you have to bring something new to the table. And they definitely do that here. The whole concept behind it, the fact that it isn't possession, the fact that it's AI, a learning machine, it does create a completely different dynamic on it. But I don't know. I guess I love that personality of Brad Dourif in that doll so much that it is it is really jarring, and because the story is about how we get from A to B, how we get from essentially a baby that is innocent, for lack of a better word, that is a blank canvas basically, and is parented into this. He's given irresponsible parenting essentially, and turns into a psycho. Because the whole movie is about him getting to that point, we don't really get the opportunity to have that Dourif style psychotic personality until right near the end. So I feel like for the majority of the movie, about at least 80% of the movie, it's a doll that is a bit, well, just a child really, and I don't particularly find it threatening.
So that was make or break for you, the whole angry Dourif? Like, is that something you were banking on and waiting for? Not so much
angry Dourif as the scare factor that brings, because the doll in this one does feel so innocent so much of the time, and again it does put a different slant on it because you sympathize with it, and that's what they're doing. They're making you identify with it in such a way that you do actually feel sorry for it at times, whereas because I feel sorry for it, because it does become a character study in a sense of that doll, I'm not scared of it. Whereas as a child watching that original Child's Play, as soon as that doll came alive, it was on. That was it. It was like, holy crap, that's freaky. As
a fan of The Dark Knight, wouldn't you see the comparisons to the way the Joker is in Chucky in 2019? Because it's all strictly chaos. It's malfunctioning software. So, the I don't know what you call those things that were switched off, the violence inhibitors. Yeah. So like, Chucky was chaotic. So there was no sort of restraint to him. Isn't that a bit horrifying? Like, if he learns any of this stuff and he has access to the internet, he could basically be Ultron. There was some chaos to him, and I thought that was kind of scary. But I would have figured you would have had some sort of similar connection.
No, I felt because of that, what was terrifying. Again, I wasn't necessarily terrified by it, but the idea itself is more terrifying. Is the Lord of the Flies-esque kind of mentality of putting this child in to the hands of children to raise it, and that's essentially what's happening. You've got these kids who are either being brought up by irresponsible parents, or we don't even see their parents around, which they're noticeable by their absence. And then you think what kids might be like in that situation, and then they themselves are then given a child to bring up. That to me is a scary idea. It's almost reflective of the society we live in, because these days I do feel like we have kids raising kids. We have people who don't quite have the mental capacity to look after kids. I mean, like just today, I read a story, and this is what is terrifying. I read a story today in which a judge has ordered an abortion for this woman because she's been deemed not mentally fit to raise that baby, despite the fact that she said she wants it. But because she's been told she's got the mental attitude of a 6-to-9-year-old.
Hey, we got a super chat. Sal Screen, $2. Thank you. Love the vids, Cody. Child's Play is one of my faves.
Thanks a lot, man. Thank you so much.
So that does have real world kind of implications. This idea that actually responsible adults, who's raising kids, what kind of effect is that going to have on society when the kids aren't being raised properly, when they're not being taught the right things? So, yeah.
So aside from the scare factor and losing the personality, because I'll admit, especially the first time that I watched it, that was one of the biggest things that I walked away with, was that I liked how this Chucky was utilized for this singular story. And I think that they utilized their version of Chucky for their version of Child's Play very well, but it's impossible for me as a Child's Play fanatic to walk in and completely get Brad Dourif out of my mind. I think I did pretty good, but you do walk in and you miss a little bit of that personality. You get hints of it towards the third act, like you said, almost like this is an origin story for that Chucky. But it certainly is something that when I watched it, I was like, this is either going to really piss people off or they're going to walk in and this is going to be something that they're going to toy with for a while. But with the scare factor aside, did you like, either of you guys, did you like how this movie went for more of the relationship between Chucky and Andy and not so much because the first film, there's that friendship-ish in the first act where Andy thinks he's a friend, but he's really just being manipulated, where this film, to me, both times that I watched it, actually gets really emotional, and it gets really sad at some points where that the deterioration of that friendship and the dark path that it goes down, to me, that was an element that we never got in Universal that was actually really something interesting to explore. Did you like that exploration, or do you feel like that kind of undercuts the villainy of Chucky?
I liked that. I thought that was a good approach to take. Again, it is about separating yourself from the original, doing something different. Like with the original, it's more an idea about what's it like to be a parent and have the prospect, be faced with the prospect that your child is potentially a psychopath.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thought. It's particularly now as a parent myself, that's something that crosses my mind a lot, is that you put all this effort into raising your kids, trying to do right by them, and what if when they get to 16 years old they just turn out to be a complete nut job? That's you can never know, chemical imbalance in the brain, whatever. But so I like the way they played with that fear aspect in the first film, whereas, like, say, this one, it's a relationship film, and it's more about how if you don't act responsibly in those relationships, you can lead people down paths that they would otherwise not have gone. And who's to blame for that is what the film is asking, really. But yeah, no, I liked that. I liked the take on it. Just the doll itself as a package, I don't warm to that much, because, like I say, I didn't find it threatening for much of the film, because it was a very childlike doll. And I get the reasons why they did that. That's the whole point of the story. But at the end of the day, I didn't find it scary, didn't find it threatening. There are a few things about the doll itself of a physical nature that kind of bugged me a bit. One, I don't like the look of it. Its face just looks like it's been hit by a spade. It's just really, really derpy.
It's weird too, because just like in the marketing, to me, there's scenes in the movie where the doll looks fine, and then there's scenes in the movie where they really highlight the imperfections of the design. Yeah. And it's the same way with all the still images. Like, you'd get one still image and it was like, oh, that's Chucky, and you get another one and you're like, yeesh. So it was the same way in the movie. Like, to me, the scene where the Aubrey Plaza's boyfriend Shane is basically like threatening Andy or kind of getting in his face, and Chucky's just looking at him in the darkness and just has that creepy smile whenever he realizes that Andy kind of inadvertently gave him permission to screw him up. I think he looks really good in that scene, but then you take another scene where he's walking around in daylight, and the facial expressions especially, it's just kind of like, woo, you got to put some shadow on that. The trailers promised a little more shadow.
Something else that I hate about the doll, which I wish they hadn't done, because it's been done to death, and it's such a cliche now, and it annoys the crap out of me, which is that when he goes bad, his eyes turn red. It's like,
I like that.
Was it that big a deal?
Like, why would they put that in the doll when
it's learning, it's recording? There are legitimate ways out of. I understand what you're saying. And yes, it seems like his eyes are only red when he's evil. But
exactly,
as learning software, when he scans Andy the first time, that his eyes are red there. Anything you have that records something, it's a red dot. So there's stuff where he's recording, and it usually ends up at moments where he's being evil. I mean, there's granted it's a little perfect an explanation, but I don't think it's that much to get hung up on. I mean,
it's just so on the nose. It just does me head in. Like in the originals, you didn't need something like that to indicate the fact that he'd turned bad. It was all done in the puppetry.
But,
like Chucky in the original films could pull a certain face that would make you go, "Whoa, he's really pissed off."
But
and like
Charles Lee Ray was a bad dude. You said it before. Chucky the doll here is this innocent blank slate. So you kind of have to.
Yeah, but you still get the facial expressions for him. There are still points in this film when his face goes mean, where his face scowls or he frowns and things like that, and you literally pick up the emotion without needing to see those eyes go red.
That's
and
fair.
It was just an annoyance, and it's like the puppetry can do the work for us. That's the thing. When you look at those older films and they could do it then with the facial expressions on the puppetry then, the puppetry now should be better. The technology should be better. It should be more advanced. So there's no excuse, no reason why they couldn't have done all the emotional beats with him through the facial expressions. The red eye stuff was it was like a TV tactic. It's the kind of thing you see in a TV show that's just quick sign to say, hey, he's gone evil. But the whole film is a character study of this thing. You didn't need that signposting to say he's gone evil. It's all there in the body language and what he was saying and doing. So
we didn't, sure, but us Joe Sixpack perhaps needs something like that. Oh, he's going to be bad now.
I could see both sides. They certainly could have been the whole movie with blue eyes, and we would have got the point. But at the same time, I think they kind of consciously made that choice just for the aesthetic of it, like especially in the opening credits where, they're in the little storage container and you just see the glow of the red eyes and it says Child's Play, and, the final scene of the movie and just an indicator that he's still, there. I didn't mind it at all. It didn't jump out to me as a negative or a positive. I was just like, okay, the certain scenes where he transitioned his face and the eyes went from blue to red. I like that effect in those scenes. So yeah, I didn't mind too much. Now let's talk about the kills.
Hold on,
because
to pound super chat from Nathan Hanratty. What was your reaction to Buddy playing the cat's death?
To me, that was another element of him misunderstanding what right and wrong is. I think he was playing the clip to try to get Andy to understand that he didn't like the cat. Some people misunderstood it as him like mentally torturing Andy and was like, oh, he would never do that. To me, he played it. He was in the corner like, remember this cat you said that you hated and you said he was a dick like 4 times and
like a psycho ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, so to me that was him like almost not really apologizing, but just like when he plays clips of when Andy's like, why'd you do this? And he plays clips of him wanting Shane to be gone. That was like the same exact thing to me.
Yeah. It's more confusion, really. He again, it's that thing where if you don't explain to a child why you've just given them a slap, then they're left in a confused state. And this is essentially what's happened to Chucky. He's being punished for having done something, and he doesn't understand why he's being punished because he's never been really taught why it's wrong to do what he's done. So, yeah.
Brian, have you seen Chappie?
Yes.
What does a better job, as far as you're concerned? The AI in Child's Play or Chappie?
It's a tough one, that, because...
All right, well, you could sit on it, Cody.
I'd probably be with Chappie, but I think Child's Play is a better film.
Yeah, they're similar in what you're talking about with child. Yeah, I'm sorry, Cody. This is your
No. You're good. No, please divert to different conversation all you want. At Raymond Cooper with $1.99. Thank you so much. So the kills. So this was something that I was not really concerned about, but anytime I see a slasher film, especially from one of the major players, this is one of the things where I'm like, okay, I wonder if they're going to put any effort into this, because I'm somebody where I feel like in modern slashers especially, the kills just don't have the creativity they did back in the 80s. The 80s were the pioneers for slashers. That was the big age, so there was a lot to play with that hasn't already been done. But
effects too.
Yeah, practical effects and everything. So what were your guys' thoughts on the kills for this movie? Because I think at least one of these kills is like top 5, top 6, and two. I'd put the two major kills at least in the top 10 or 15. So I thought that they really went for it with the kills.
Lawnmower kill is top 3 for me. I think that lawnmower kill. I don't know. So Cecil from the horror show referenced it to. He compared it to Austin Powers with a slow. That scene in the hallway, but I mean that it was tense. He was trying to get away. Remember when horror movies made you believe that perhaps the person was going to get away? It was build up. I like the fact that it built up and the lawnmower or whatever the hell it was slowly pulling the Christmas lights. And yes, they would have turned off by that point, but cinematography, just let it go, people. Really, it looks pretty.
If you're focusing on those details, then you just want to hate everything. Not only that, but the scene before that where he gets pushed off the ladder and probably the most painful leg break I've ever seen. Both of his legs just go snap. And it also does the whole thing with the addiction to technology. There's the whole thing where he falls off and he's screaming for help, and everybody in his house is occupied with like the Beats by Dre headphones. They're just sitting here like this, and Dad's in the back getting slaughtered.
And some terrible irony there, yeah.
This is for Tupac. Yeah, that cracked me up when he's stabbed, and this is for Tupac.
That whole sequence to me, because I love the fact that they made you hate this guy, and they did it slowly and steadily. They didn't really it wasn't too on the nose. It wasn't really like overdone. Like the guy shows up and at first you just think, oh, he just doesn't like him because that's mom's boyfriend. That's totally realistic depiction of a kid that age with a single parent because I was the same way. My dad was a single parent for a long time. Didn't matter what the lady was. Dad's girlfriend sucked. You know what I mean? For a while. He always had that bit of attitude, especially when you're around the age that Andy is where you start to think you know everything. So to me, that was cool because I was like, oh, he's being a kid, and then you you slowly start to see little shades of why he wouldn't like Shane, where you just clean up your room, and like little small comments where you're like, man, get out of here. And then the making out with his mom in the kitchen, especially the scene, which is a really subtle detail where they come out the bedroom and he's still adjusting his belt, and it's just like, dude, how dare you do that in front of a kid? So then they put the cherry on top where he goes home to his family and puts his wedding ring back on. And I was like, oh, please eviscerate this guy. So it's always more fun in a kill scene when you absolutely hate the character and you're like, please make this as painful and gory as possible. And they did. They had the whole leg snap thing. The Chucky and the shadows going around in the bushes, nice little callbacks to how they utilized them in '88. Turning on the lawnmower or whatever that was that helped the
his fucking ET finger, yeah.
The watermelon patch. It's probably not a lawnmower, but somebody will correct me down below. But in the slow where it hits the actual Christmas lights and then just gears right towards him, and he gets to hang on to it for a second, and then it scalps him, and I mean it's just like 5 or 6 different kills in one.
But it shoots the wig onto that gnome as well.
Yeah,
and it's also
exactly.
a callback too because they show the kids really digging on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 scene where the guy gets defaced. So like it's a setup and a payoff, and like it's a good movie. If you don't like it, that's one thing. But as far as horror is concerned, there's more to this than just kills and fuck.
And I love that whole subplot in the second act of the film where he was trying to get rid of the face. That was just such a cool. Cause I know at least one of us does not like Texas Chainsaw films whatsoever, but I really enjoy some of them, especially Texas Chainsaw 2. So I really got giddy with that whole reference and the fact that it actually became not only a reference but like a plot point in the film. To me, that was really cool. And then we moved to the other kill that was kind of in the marketing, which is the creepy janitor. Which again, you've seen this guy, and aside from him just looking like a creepier Jack Black. You don't really know anything about him, but within 5 minutes, they make you hate this guy because he's a creep and he's got video footage of every single apartment, the dinner table, the shower, and he kind of is the second person to tamper with Chucky and reinstate all of the powers that he was supposed to have from the beginning. And what did you guys think of the pipe hang kill?
Yeah, I didn't like the Jack Black character guy. Yeah.
Didn't like him like as a throwaway in the film, or just didn't like the character as in I want him to die?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, just super chat there.
Super chat from AntsGirl87. I love your videos, Cody. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I didn't like him because he didn't do anything like really like.
He was sketchy.
I get that he was there to kind of bring Chucky back, but yeah, I don't know. It just felt like a bit of a waste of time to me. There's no. They didn't have to take Chucky out of the equation in that way in order to have this guy bring him back, but they kind of put this guy in there to bring him back so that he could take it. I don't know, it just all felt a bit like going around the houses without actually being valuable plot that kind of drove the story forward in any meaningful way.
You didn't find any value in not only Chucky being literally tampered with twice, but also with him kind of being, you know, broken for most of the movie and then finally being unleashed completely in the third act?
I don't know. I just feel like he could have got to that point through his own learning, and then it does become a choice thing where, look, this is the stuff you've taught him. Now deal with the consequences. But having this guy then tamper with him and fix him so that
He was going to resell him. He was all about eBay or some shit, he said.
Yeah, he was gonna flip him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they set him up as creepy right off the bat. Like, you knew something was up with him with the interesting shots he was getting right when they first moved in, and it's just like, well, why focus on this guy? What's going on here? And it turns out the dude's just ultra creepy, and it fit for me because they gave us that extra. Like, if it was something else, if it were somebody else, it would be, you know, a little bit more of a stretch. But because, you know, you just felt weird about this guy from the start, it kind of...
I don't know, I just feel like you're building this guy up for something, but it just turned out to be nothing really in the end. Whereas if you'd have utilised the whole camera setup that he had in the third act for a reveal, like, you know, it's a crime scene at that point, someone goes down there, maybe the kids go down there to find Chucky again because they know that, oh, Chucky must be responsible for this. And then when they're down there, they see on the cameras that Chucky is in one of the apartments actually about to kill the mother or something. Then it gives them a reason for kind of... It leads into the final act. It would set stuff up, a payoff in that regard. Whereas actually, we're just given this creepy character who is literally there to get killed by Chucky, and he doesn't really have any value or meaning to any of the other periphery characters or main characters or whatever. He's just there.
Interesting.
Yeah. I was okay with it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I liked the kill. I thought that the setup of it, with him kind of, you know, finally unleashing his powers where he can control all the different things, and you know, stabbing the guy and going through the shadows again, just like 88, and then him getting on top of the buzzsaw, and just how all that played out, I thought it was pretty cool. They went for it with the gore, so I enjoyed it. And then you also have, like, for the other two kills, you pretty much have Doreen, which is probably the least gory, the least crazy kill, with the Caslin car, and then Chucky in a really creepy scene to me where he's in the car after she blacks out and he's over the speaker systems, Doreen, peekaboo, and he's actually in the car already. That was a really cool scene to me. But also the whole Dev Mart massacre, where it's third act time. You know, he's taken a hold of all the Buddy 2s. He's taken a hold of the drones. I could have used probably another minute or two in that sequence, a little bit more carnage, but I thought it was pretty cool how they went for it, and he was just slaying everybody pretty much, while CP finds what he's looking for. What did you think of both of those kills?
The one in the car was probably my favorite of the film, and that's mainly because I cared about the character.
Yeah.
And to me, that that always trumps. Like contrast that with the one we were just talking about, where I didn't give a toss about that character at all. Like even the lawnmower dude, I didn't care about him in the sense of liking him, but I cared in a way because they'd made me hate him in a reasonable way. Like they didn't just go, "Hey, look, here's a sleaze bag," you know, then you want him to die, like the Jack Black character. They built him up as a more despicable character, like you were saying before. So to me, that was more of a payoff. And then likewise, you've got this character who I do genuinely care about. You know, seeing Detective Mike, with his mother, and her nearly getting ahead as a present, and just dodging that bullet. Yeah, I cared about her. I didn't want her to die. And for me, when they kill someone in a film like this, and that you don't want to die, it has more impact. It makes me feel more invested in what's going on, and it raises the stakes as well, because you then realise that it's not just the douchebags that are up for grabs. It's anyone can be put on the chopping board. So yeah, for me, for those reasons, that was probably the best kill in the film.
Mm-hmm. To me, that was the creepiest scene in the movie. Whenever when she comes out of consciousness and he comes over the PA system in the car and basically taunts her until he just pops out and stabs the hell out of her. I thought that was one of the more tense scenes in the movie, so I did like that one. CP, I brought up the car kill with Doreen, and I brought up the Dev Mart massacre where Chucky goes full-on slaughter in the third act.
Which was my least favorite of the bunch, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elaborate.
Yeah, no, it's just very generic. Just very okay. So he's gonna get drones to kill people generically, and the most important worthwhile point is when Aubrey Plaza's being hung, and that's the end of the movie, essentially. That's the climax. But everything that happens in the store, like you could tell. There was CG elements, and the extras were just reacting to somebody saying "run, run, run." I didn't really feel much as it's supposed to be, just absolute chaos with all these brand new buddies running amok. I mean that they could have made that bear buddy, whatever the hell, that fuzzy faced one. That could have been really exciting if that. The look. It
should have been like a horror film equivalent of the church scene from Kingsman, where just like total chaos.
Yeah,
they should have just gone nuts with that thing.
Yeah, and I didn't have much invested at all, to be honest with you. I was just like, all right.
The one thing I found odd about that scene, especially the second time I watched it, is they never show any of the Buddy 2s except for the bear doing anything. So it's like there was only bears in the store. That was the only thing that was strange. I don't know if they didn't want to confuse people because it looks so much like Chucky, except for the blonde hair. But yeah, that was the only thing that was odd to me. I thought maybe I had missed it the first time around, and I actually looked for it the second time. And yeah, they only showed the bears doing anything. So I did think that was a little bit strange. But yeah, I was telling Brian I could have used about another minute of carnage with that scene.
Yeah.
I liked what they were going for, but it just felt like they needed to push it just for as much as they pushed the gore in the first two kills. It felt like they could have gone a little bit farther. I don't know if there's an unrated cut or whatever that we might get on Blu-ray, but that was the one scene where I liked it, but I was like, for as much chaos as you're trying to portray here, I could have used a little bit more.
It was chaotic and vague somehow at the same time. It was just like, all right, indistinct, but I'll take it. Like for the amount of setup they gave with the lawn utensil kill, this seemed kind of rushed in comparison.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll talk about the characters a little bit then. So we talked about Chucky, we talked about the kills. Let's talk about Andy, Aubrey Plaza, Detective Mike, and the friends. So just to kind of run through them really quick, and I'll turn the floor over to you guys. I actually think Gabriel Bateman did better than Alex Vincent. I will go on a limb and say that. I think that his character, it's two different eras, it's two different requirements of acting, I get it. But I think that he, and the age difference certainly, but I think that he delivered a lot of emotion in this movie. I think he did really, really good. I like the way that they utilized him in the film and the way they built that relationship with him and Chucky. So he was definitely a standout for me. I really liked Aubrey Plaza as the mom. The second time I watched it, especially with listening to Brian's thoughts on it, I definitely think she's kind of a shitty mom, but at the same time, she's kind of charming in how naive she is. She has that young
Immature.
mom. Yeah, that young mom immaturity a little bit, where she's kind of more friends with her son than a parent in certain ways. But she still has that Aubrey Plaza charm. There's a couple moments where she gets to have that comedy, like when she's taking the doll from the guy in the back. I liked her. I liked her relationship with Andy. And if they do a sequel, I'm curious to see more between those two. Detective Mike was something where I thought he was utilized really well as like a comedic relief, as kind of the more jovial neighbor. To me, they missed the mark a bit with the cop aspect of him. When I watched it the second time, I noticed that the only times you ever know this guy's a cop is because when somebody's dead, he shows up to find the body at a crime scene when everybody else is working and say a quippy line, and then he leaves. Like, you never actually see the guy detecting anything or trying to look into it. He just shows up at the crime scene. Oh, okay, this guy's dead. And then the next scene you see him and he's joking around the dinner table. So I thought he was utilized well as the actor, and everything was really funny. I did miss a little bit of that, the cop aspect to him. He never really felt like a cop. And then he just gets pissed at the end because his mom dies and just, goes apeshit on Andy. The Friends was where I had my biggest issue with the film, because they really led, when they first were talking about concepts of this movie, they were really leading with not only the AI angle, but they were leading with Andy and his friends being the focus in this versus just Andy by himself. And I thought that was a really interesting thing. I'm not somebody that subscribes to everything rips off Stranger Things. I think Stranger Things is a ripoff in and of itself, which is why we all love it. So I was something that I saw this and I was like, okay, that's an interesting thing, because now Chucky is not just having Andy to deal with. Now he's going to have other kids to deal with, and it works well in the story with him becoming jealous. If I can't be your best friend, nobody else can. But to me, the friends, the three of them, don't really get anything to do. The girl almost feels like she's going to be a love interest, but they never really go there. The heavier set one is more the dumb one of the group, the one that says goofy things, and to me, he wasn't all that great of an actor. It was funny seeing him throw up when he saw the face, but that was about it. And then the other kid, who is kind of more bully of the three, I just never liked him because he was a bully to Andy. He was a dick to him the entire time, even to the point where the Chucky repackages himself and gives him to this kid Omar, and the first thing they do is call Andy over, who's already heartbroken about his doll, and they're like, "Ha ha! My buddy doll works right. My buddy doll can do all this." And I named him Chode. And it just, to me, the three friends was the biggest misstep in the film. I feel like you could have taken them out completely. And aside from that little bit of jealousy that Chucky already has for everybody else in the film, pretty much, since he kills Doreen, sees it for his mom, I think the film would have been exactly the same. So either one of you, whoever wants to take it off, just kind of go over your thoughts on the characters overall.
I think the mother-son relationship was way better in 2019 than it was in '88. Like that I feel like that's an easy thing. Like you bought into their relationship as tighter, or I don't know. I just believe that because he was showing her, was it she looking through his phone and saw he had a meme of a buddy doll banging something, and that's why she figured to get the doll as a joke. There was a little bit more of that, a little bit more of paying attention to the relationship in 2019 than I think in '88. '88, he just made her breakfast in bed. That was the first thing we got from Andy with his mom. But I do feel like the detective was a lot more detective-y in '88, whereas Detective Mike in this one felt a bit more, goofy neighbor. But you really felt that Andy was a bit of a loner in this 2019 movie, and the way the relationship, the way he gets brought into that group with the Stranger Things kids was due to Chucky, because he was saying things that they didn't know about from those buddy dolls. So like it made sense to me, like why he would want to hang out with them, because he doesn't have friends at all and they just moved to this new place. But it does, I mean, there was no friend at all in '88, so it's hard to compare it to something that doesn't exist. But I bought it, and it did seem realistic as a loner raised by a single mom. A lot of it seemed pretty legit. Well, that's just me, though.
What were your thoughts on the friends? Like, as far as, did you feel like they were? Did you have as much negative with me as I did, or were they just they were okay?
because it all made sense. I mean, when shit got tough, and this is true for most kids. They just didn't want to get in trouble, and that was like the thing that they cared about most was not getting in trouble first. And a lot of people say, well, they made a lot of stupid decisions. Yeah, because they didn't want to get in trouble. They thought they would get in trouble. So, like, I bought a lot of that. You know, some kids are dicks to other kids, and you know, there's this weird. This is pre-high school, so there's this weird, you know, jealousy relationship thing that I thought was solid. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that that's kids. That's for sure. Like they didn't misrepresent the kids. I just didn't enjoy them as much as I wanted to.
Yeah, if you took them out, I wouldn't be like, oh man. But I was all right with it.
Mr. Lomax.
Yeah, I think the mother-son relationship, that they're kind of two very different things. I think in the the original and this one. I think in this one they highlight a lot more the irresponsibility of the mother. I think she's symptomatic of a lot of parents today, which is that they spend too much time trying to be their child's best friend and not enough time trying to be their parent. And yeah, I think that's what leads to a lot of the trouble in this. It's a good observation. It's not, I don't think it's bad writing. I think it's good writing, but I think it's purposeful, and I think it highlights where things go wrong. Whereas in the original, she was a single mother, and she was out all day working, not through choice, but because what choice does she have? She wants to bring the son up. She got to bring money into the house. She has to go out and work. But she wasn't the kind of mother who was going to bring some deadbeat asswipe back to the house to pretend to be his father. So, she was very much determined to do that alone and do right by him as best she could. She made mistakes, but, whatever. All parents do. But I feel like in this one, the new one, there's definitely a concerted effort there to highlight the fact that even though she loves her son, she's maybe not the most responsible of parents.
Oh yeah, she essentially steals the doll too. She gets a broken return that she doesn't pay for. So they set it up right from Jump Street that she's a little different.
Yeah.
So I like their relationship. Like I say, it's flawed and it's a bit more real, I guess. But if I was going to have one of those two characters as a mother, I would definitely want the one from the original film. Who else? Yeah, Detective Mike. I didn't really realize what a problem he was as a character until I watched Cody's review, actually, because I came out of the film liking him. I liked his character, and I think it is that thing, like you say, he's pretty good comic relief, and I like the warmth that he shows to this kid. I like him as a person, as a character. The fact that he sees this kid in the stairwell and decides to talk to him, and so that makes me warm to him. And then seeing his relationship with his mother and having that attachment to the mother, and when she dies, that all that stuff makes me warm to him. But you're right, when you come away from the movie and really examine it and look back, you got to kind of think, what policing did he actually do? Not a right lot, really.
He arrested a kid in the third act. What do you mean?
Yeah. So it's just, they could have done a lot more there, I think, just to build that relationship up a bit more, so that maybe once stuff did start kicking off and Andy was kind of trying to explain what was going on, that maybe he was the only one who's in Andy's corner, the only one backing him up, and they didn't with that. The friends, I would say don't get rid of the friends altogether, but maybe just stick with one. Maybe have the girl, so there is that potential romantic angle there, but you have them. I mean, this is probably not the best film to compare it to, not because it's a bad film, but just because the relationship is pretty twisted. But if you think of Let the Right One In which you have this relationship between this complete loner child who's, from the look of it, has got murderous tendencies, and then she comes into the picture and they both really connect. Imagine that, but more positive and less murderish. Then I think that would work a lot better, I think, than what we got, which was more of a, it was more of a Goonies style, let's try and be funny, but it's not really that funny. So yeah, it felt a bit done, really. It felt a bit like overcooked.
Yep, agreed. All right. Something that I wanted to kind of dive into, this is kind of just going off because I've seen some things in the chat and we brought up a couple of things, is more so getting everybody's take on certain pieces of the movie that I've heard most criticized or most misunderstood or most controversial. And we'll start right at the beginning. What did you guys think of our origin for Chucky? Random Vietnam worker who looks a little distraught, takes the parameters off and jumps to his death. Was that enough for you? Did you feel like that it was a waste? Did you feel like that didn't make any sense? I know our buddy Cecil had a huge issue with it. So where do you kind of stand with that?
The main thing for me is that it's this whole idea of having these parameters to begin with that can be switched off.
Violence.
It's like, really? Why would you? Why? I don't get that. I don't get why it would have this flip a switch and then you can turn off all the.
Maybe down
maybe
down the line they could sell that technology to the army so that they could have like drone people.
Fair enough, but don't put it in a toy you're going to sell to kids.
it's all software. It's all programs.
I saw that as another piece of the commentary on the dangers of technology. I mean, God knows how many things that we use, Alexa, Siri, have parameters like this that could be turned as easy as that. The whole Skynet effect. So to me, that was what they were going for, was just, all it takes is one little switch and we could be in some shit.
I'll be honest, after that scene, if you had gauged my interest right after that Vietnam scene, I was like, oh, we're in trouble. This is not going in a place that I want to be, but they turned it around relatively quickly, because I really was kind of worried about that when that was how they explained things, but alas.
Yeah, my thing with the scene, especially watching it a second time, which I keep saying, but the acting is really hammy in that opening scene, especially from the supervisor, where SWAT, you're stupid, get out of my shop, finish this one, and then you're fired. So there.
How about I leave?
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna just leave. But yeah, I was fine with the origin, because in my mind, the origin is not the focus in this version of Chucky, whereas to me, there's no origin whatsoever, especially regarding AI, that's going to even come close to how cool and interesting the Charles Lee Ray voodoo aspect is. So to me, this is how it happened. Now let's move on.
Yep.
So I took it at face value like that. I didn't have any problem with it. It definitely, just the acting of that scene was the only issue that I had. It seemed a little hammed up, but I was cool with it. But I was curious, because I've heard some people like, it's a terrible origin. And I'm like, well, the origin's not really important at all past that scene. Like, it never comes into play. Nobody really cares beyond that. And we're not going to keep talking about it if there's 5 of these movies. We're not going to keep talking about the origin. It's literally exists in that scene, and then it's over. So
yeah, most people that are suicidal aren't really thinking straight either. So there's
Exactly. So I was cool with all that. Now moving on to how we actually get Chucky to Andy. I've heard a lot of people criticize the fact that Aubrey Plaza buys a doll for her 11, 12-year-old son, and it's just people are like, why would you even buy that for him? He's too old. And to me, they receive the doll, bring it home for him. And my defense of that as a parent, I cannot tell you how many gifts I have bought for my kids that I would have done backflips over when I was a kid, or that I think they're really going to like, and they could not be less interested when I hand it to them. You know what I mean? Like, there's been things that I've bought, like a video game even. I'll give it to my son. I'm like, here you go. And I'm expecting, like, you know, oh my God, and a big hug and everything. And he's like, oh, thanks. And sets it down and plays with something else. And I'm like, you little bastard. So, like, that's another thing where, to me, it was realistic, where parents are ignorant sometimes with what their kids are really interested in. You see a meme and you're like, oh, they'll like that. And the kid couldn't care less about it. So I was fine with that. I don't know if either of you guys had that issue. I'm doing a lot of defense against things that Cecil didn't like. You can't tell. But,
that is nitpicky to the 10th
yeah, we
degree.
don't have enough time to go over all of them. I'm just picking the major ones that I've heard other people besides Cecil pop out.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's your guys' thoughts on that? Were you fine with it? Did you feel like it was a plot device that was a little contrived, or?
Is that what we're discussing? Like, seriously? The fact that she got the fucking, the doll for Andy? Where do you want the movie to go? What the hell? How do you want her to get the doll to him?
And SCP says, I digest. So, yeah. Did you find any issue whatsoever with the fact that the doll had obviously been given to another child from this woman that returned it, and didn't imprint on this child the way that he imprinted on Andy? Did you feel like that was a plot hole, or do you feel like that was easily explained with, well, he just wasn't?
I think it all feeds into the loner aspect of Andy, because I think a normal child who has relationships with other children, has seen maybe other children who have the doll as well, all that kind of stuff, they would recognize that there was something not quite the same with this doll, and maybe be standoffish to it. Whereas Andy, who doesn't have any friends, he is a bit of a loner. He just goes with it, and again, he doesn't recognize until it's way too late that something is seriously off with this thing. So
I think there is merit to this, because essentially Chucky is software. I mean, I have a broken laptop that I refuse to do anything with because it's got my shit inside it. So I'm not letting anybody else have it because it's been mine now. It is a returned item. So essentially, if again, software, once you first turn it on, if it does that eye swipe thingy right off the bat, it should be linked to whatever kid that was. So I do put some sort of merit to that gripe. However, maybe they didn't get that far. Maybe it was herky jerky. It's hard to say without seeing it.
I think it's easily. I think you could easily have either argument with this. I think you could have plenty of argument for why that's a plot hole, just as much as I could say, well, the mom probably turned it on, and it was all glitchy, and they said, I spent $400 on this thing, I'm gonna get a new one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not even get to the point. Now, how many times have we bought a PlayStation or a TV or something, and you turn it on, and you get an error message, and you're like, nope, back to Best Buy. I don't care if I can fix it or not.
That pixel's out. No, thank you.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, that was one that I heard quite a few people bring up that I
which is
like
close,
I said,
but
you could easily say that, but at the same time you could easily explain your way out of it.
But again, if you're going to things like that, you just don't want to like the movie. Like there's nitpicking, there's gripes, there's plot holes, and then there's.
I have explained that before. It's a very easy hole to find yourself in, and I've found myself in it sometime before. But you know, when you walk into a movie, especially one if you're really anticipating it, and the movie loses you quickly, and you start getting that bad mood about it, you will find every little tiny thing wrong with it.
Right.
And it's people accused me of that when I had Halloween 2018. I don't quite think I was that level, but you know, it happens. You get a little bit mad at the movie, and you're like, all right, what else can I find? And and it's no, those shoelaces weren't invented in it's you start finding any little tiny
That's
things.
an 83 Impala. This is supposed to take place in 78. No, I'm out.
Yep, exactly. Now, funny enough, my dad does get really angry at stuff like that. He's like, "This is in '85. That song didn't come out until '86." Like, he'll nail it in every movie, and it's hilarious. But yeah. So then I've heard a theory too. And I'm curious on your guys for the third act. So we get to the third act, and you have Karen getting hoisted up. You get a small scene. Well, before that, you get a scene where Andy's walking through this dark, storage alley. And you see a Buddy doll like up in the rafters looking at Andy, and then he gets hit from the other direction and knocked out. And when he gets woken up, then, all hell breaks loose. I've heard a theory for how they would explain Chucky is back, or how you get that final scene in the movie with the red eyes and a doll when we saw another doll get smashed. And I'm curious on your thoughts on this. I've heard a theory that Chucky was controlling another doll for that entire climax. And Chucky was just up in the one up in the shelves watching. And then that's how they're going to explain that he was, in the box at the end with the red eyes. I don't quite subscribe to that. I think that was more of just a trick of cinematography, like showing the doll so he's fixated on it and then gets hit from behind because, he got tricked. And I like to think more of, he's so in the cloud and his abilities are so tied to all these different dolls that it would be very easy to assume that his AI just goes to another doll.
Yeah,
but,
see, I assumed that he imprinted on other dolls.
Yeah, exactly. So he could very easily just have another vessel. So which one? So obviously you kind of fall in the same camp as me. That's more reasonable to you, Brian. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't care. Really.
It's fine.
It's just like, yeah, it's the most easy. If they're going to do a sequel, which they will, because I think this one's doing pretty well.
It's already $4 million above what it cost.
Yeah, it doesn't take a genius to explain another film in this series.
For sure.
We're talking AI. We're talking about intelligence moving through the cloud. It's just done. It's a done deal.
That's why I subscribe more to the simple explanation, because I don't feel like they even need to put forth the effort to put these little extra things in there that they can explain later on. I feel like it's the most. It's even
that
easier.
Culture. It's part of that culture of YouTubers making thumbnails with arrows pointing at things and saying, "Look at this! Look at this that no one else has seen in the film or the trailer." And it's like, you're not explaining jack, mate. So it's give it up. It's just, you don't have to try and look for something that isn't there in every single thing. But yeah.
You said it, I didn't. So
I'm not saying anything.
Yeah. So now kind of transitioning from there. So I think the movie is good enough to merit a sequel. I think when all is said and done, when the chips fall, it's going to make enough money to merit a sequel, despite all of the flop talk on Killer Flicks. So let's talk about where this could go with a sequel, what you would want from a sequel, what you want them to fix, what you think is perfectly fine to explore, maybe even an idea of where you want the story to go. Do you feel like Chucky's going to be on a revenge kick, or you feel like he's just going to be ultra stalkery in the next one and he's just going to come back and torment Andy even more? I'll start with Brian. Where would you take this sequel? And what would you fix? What would you change?
I would, now that we've had Chucky going on his journey to become who he is, essentially, I would ramp up the character, the personality of it. So
like Child's Play 2?
Yeah, so do make it a bit more Dourif-esque. Do let Hamill go a bit wilder, because there were moments there towards the end of this one where vocally he seemed to get more pronounced, more out there, a bit wilder, and that's when I started to warm to him. But by then it was a bit late, because it was right near the end of the film. But if you start with that and you let him have that personality, then I think you could be in for something decent. Change the look of the doll.
Which,
Yeah.
conveniently enough, like I said in my review, is the easiest thing that they can change. Thank God. They can very easily. Buddy 3 is out, and Buddy 3 looks fantastic, and he just goes into Buddy 3.
Yeah. And even have some characters talking about how crap Buddy 1 looked, and nice little in joke.
Little in joke.
Yeah. But no, I think bring Detective Mike back and have something, not necessarily a sexual thing, but something going on relationship wise with those three, Andy, his mother, and Mike, just because of what they've been through, bit what you call it, PTSD, like PTSD kind of thing. I don't know. I wouldn't really know where to take it, to be honest. I'm sure there are better ideas men than me out there who have probably already come up with the idea for the sequel. Just make Chucky a bit more badass from the get-go with the next one, and take it from there.
Yeah, I think you can take it a couple of ways. You could straight do Child's Play 2 again. Have the Chucky doll looking for Andy again. I mean, the kid's a good enough actor where I wouldn't mind seeing him again if he's down for it. So you just follow the first storyline. Have Chucky hellbent on Andy, or you can go a different route where perhaps he is imprinting on other dolls, and now like it's starting to spread like a bad disease, and you don't have to have it in Andy's house. It's in somebody else's house with that. I don't know if it's Chucky or is it supposed to be a different doll or whatever at the end in the box. That is the new family that deals with it. It could be a contained story where it's just this new family, or you could have Chucky learning a bunch of stuff in the meantime, and you can get pretty dark with what's going on in this country with what kids are doing to each other, and just have him, AI learning some of that stuff, like how often you go past the news where some kid's messing another kid up, or a school shooting or something like that. You can get like really dark, and Chucky just learning from again, if you really want to dig deep with the social commentary, just have Chucky reflect what's going on in the state of the country.
Sounds good.
Dark.
Well, I'm going to hammer this idea out a little bit more, because I am going to do a standalone video where I kind of pitch my idea for a sequel, or ideas for a sequel. But to me, I think it would be neat if, they to me, it's very important, the final, like, Chucky lunging at Andy. You know what I mean? Like, finally to the point where he is going to kill Andy. That's like the last switch. So to me, it only makes sense to go in a sequel where he's not just trying to be his friend and he's trying to get everybody else out of the way anymore. Now it's more revenge. It's more him trying to take out Andy for taking him out. You know what I mean? For discarding his friendship. And then that's very easy to have the more Brad Dourif attitude to the Chucky doll, and very easily fix the design. I've already said this. You could have Buddy 3, Buddy 4, whatever the hell come out, and it looks great, and he just easily goes into that. Very easy to explain.
Buddy
no
X.
plot holes. Yeah, exactly. I think that go ahead.
So I was just thinking, like, part of that whole vengeance thing could be Chucky coming and taking out everyone that's in Andy's life. So
Yeah.
just really attacking the people he loves to use that against him and things.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I was heading with that too. Is maybe you could even bring back the cast, and maybe one of the kids get killed or something like that. Go a little summer of '84. But you have yeah, exactly. Go there. But I think that you could also have too, where as far as a setup for where Andy's at, to me, even though they have the whole Tim Matheson, video at the end where he's like, Caslin does not, or has ruled that they do not have any responsibility for the massacre at Zedmart. I think that they covered it up. You know what I mean? You could have it to where they've paid everybody off, and you can get Andy and his mom out of the slums and out of the ghetto. You know what I mean? Now they're in a nice high rise, or now they're in the more wealthy section, or he's at a private school or something like that, and life is great. Maybe him and his friends all got a bunch of money, and now they're all having a great old time in the higher society. And you could have Chucky come in and just screw up the works. So I think it's like I said, I'm gonna hammer that idea out a little bit more, flesh it out a bit more. But that's kind of where I would take the sequel, is have them where the aftermath puts them in a better state of life, and then Chucky comes back for revenge. 2 years later, a year later, whatever. I don't think they need to upgrade the doll's abilities or anything like that. I think you just upgrade his personality and upgrade his look, and we're fine. So I think that's going to be cool. I do think we'll get it. I fingers crossed. I was genuinely surprised how good the reception was among fans. It seems to be 60-40. It seems to be 60-40 with the critics. So I think people would want it, except for maybe Don Mancini.
If you want more, pay. Go pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. What do you guys think about the stuff still going on with Mancini? Are you still interested in the TV series or additional movies? Are you fine with just, this is cool, I'm good with this for right now? Or do you actually like the fact that we kind of have both options?
I like it because if it works, if it's successful, it might lead to other franchises doing the same. I like the idea of having, say, a Batman movie that is coming out, and then, say, alongside that, letting Michael Keaton come back and do a separate Batman movie, again with Tim Burton, to revisit their original movies. I don't see why franchises can't do that. We live in this state where if you've got one set up, you can't do it. And yet in comic books, you could have a character that's got 4 or 5 different titles going on at the same time.
Yep.
Some of them in different timelines. So yeah, why not? Why not have several different iterations of a character going on at once?
Yeah.
Yeah. I echo Brian's sentiment. I'd rather turn away food than be starving. So bring it on. Having said that, I don't understand this newfound diehard loyalty to Don Mancini, all things considered, because 2 of his last 3 have been
Great.
what he said.
Oh my God, Brian. Yep. So I'm the same way. You know what I mean? Like I will say it a million times. I mean, nothing but respect and love for Mancini for what he gave us in the earlier films. I mean, we wouldn't have those without him. I don't think he's the singular voice of those films, as people have pointed out quite a bit, especially with the original one. You got a lot of Tom Holland in that movie, but the guy definitely gave us the good movies. But to me, the franchise certainly went off the rails once Don Mancini took the wheel. Not all of us agree, obviously, but yeah, to me, it's Seed was the one bump in the road for a long time. I'm like, okay, I love all these films, but Seed was a very big low point. And then especially after Curse came back, I was like, all right, Mancini, you kind of regained my faith. We'll see what you can do now. I don't like the fact that we're stuck in VOD because of your little screw up, but we'll see where it goes. And Cult kind of smashed my expectations again. So to me, I was ready for anybody else to kind of give Chucky some different vision, some different voice. So I was of that camp the whole time. Like this, it feels like people hate remakes so much, or they want to hate remakes, or they want to join the conversation of hating remakes so much that they'll cling on to any solid argument that they can have. So this one, Don Mancini gave everybody the ammo right off the bat, making it like this film was ruining his career or something like that, or ruining his life, and everybody's like, not my Chucky, and justice for Mancini and all this stuff. And like a video that I put out about maybe 2 weeks before the movie came out, maybe a little longer before that, I wouldn't be surprised, not that this movie is killing it in the box office, but it's the biggest box office they've had in the franchise so far, and it's only week 1.
Opening weekend, yeah.
Yeah, so the opening weekend. So it's to me, I would not be shocked if Universal sees the final take of this and says, you know what, we can put one in theaters. I think people will come and see it. Versus before this movie came along, they would never even approach that conversation. They're going, no, you're getting $2 million to stay on Netflix.
Dude, that's where, like, when people call this a flop, first of all, it's been 3 days, 14 million in 3 days, highest in the franchise. Second of all, both Cult and Curse combined to make 6. So this movie in 3 days has more than doubled your last 2 movies. So what are we talking about here? Perhaps the franchise isn't, $100 million worthy to begin with. So, yeah, let
and that's the thing too. And I find myself having this argument. Look, I'm the biggest Child's Play fan you're going to find, but even I know, like, you have the big 3, and then you have arguments over who's number 4. To me, it's Chucky. Somebody might say Ghostface. Somebody might say Leatherface. There is yeah, okay. So you have that too. But to me, if you have those 3, you got Freddie, Michael, and Jason as far as popularity, brand recognition, box office potential. It's not like number 4 is close. Number 4 is a gigantic step down, and it's Chucky is not as much of a household name as horror fans like to think. And I would love for that to be wrong, but it's just not. You just look at the numbers, and it's not.
I have statistics to back that up, but you're going to have to watch my channel in 2 hours.
You look at Halloween. Yes, by the way, we will be on CP's channel at 9 p.m., so an hour and a half from now. Make sure you guys come back over to CP's channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're going to be doing some box office talk.
And now back that statement up he just said with visual elements.
Well, I mean, you look at something like Halloween 2018, where this was just last year, a totally a slasher franchise. Now versus a remake, I understand people usually get a little bit more warm to bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis and going back to the golden age of the Halloween movies versus a remake. But still, you have a very comparable thing there with Michael Myers and Chucky. And I think Michael Myers made what Chucky's made in 3 days in probably a few hours. You know what I mean? It's just a different level.
Yeah.
So 14 million people see that and they go, "Oh God, what a terrible summer movie."
Michael Myers is a brand. Yeah, he's like Coca-Cola. Yeah. Like you can't have this argument.
Yeah. I mean, it's 14 million in 3 days is good for this franchise. And if people like it the way that they have, the critics have liked it, watch a second one. Watch what a second one does. So, yeah, that's my little rant on that. But I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else. We haven't covered anything with this movie, or we kind of explored it pretty well.
See, you think you cover everything, and then after it's like, I should.
Like, damn, I wanted to get Brian's thoughts on this. Yeah, so I mean that pretty much covers it. I think we can go to the chat for, we'll say, 15 minutes and kind of get everybody to steer the conversation a bit, unless you guys have something specifically that you want to talk about that maybe I skipped over.
Somebody said something before that I kind of wanted to highlight and I forgot. Somebody asked if, considering this is a decent movie to some of us, does that make it a good remake? I'm paraphrasing.
This is my thoughts on why this is a good remake, because not only do I think it's a good movie, I would give it 4 out of 5, but it does exactly what not only most remakes get very wrong, but very little remakes try to do, and that's take the original concept and go in a wildly new direction with it. Very few remakes can you say that. I mean, Rob Zombie's Halloween did for certain elements, but then it kind of went right back into John Carpenter's Halloween by the halfway point. You got Nightmare on Elm Street, which tried too hard to be exactly the same movie in some respects, and got the only thing that it tried to do differently was make him a child molester instead of a child killer. You have Friday the 13th, which is my favorite of the franchise. It's Brian's favorite of the franchise. That movie it doesn't try to do anything different than the other Friday the 13th movies. It just kind of packs 4 movies worth of Friday the 13th into one. So it
shows you how much plot those original movies have.
I love you, CP. But yeah, you think about a lot of these remakes, and there are some awesome remakes out there that stick very close to the source material, but there's very few that you can really think of that are as different of a movie as Child's Play 1988 and Child's Play 2019. So to me, yes, that makes it a good remake, because I think more remakes should take by example and do something wildly different. Don't just try to do exactly the same thing, but make it look newer.
Brian? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Brian's getting tired.
Yeah, I would say it's.
I agree with what Cody said. It's just like I said it before. I think if you're going to do a remake, you need to give us something different. Otherwise, what is the point of us coming back? If you're going to rehash what's been before, I'd rather just watch what we got before.
Exactly.
Now that doesn't mean to say that just because you go wildly different, that is going to win me over. Like, when Rob Zombie did Halloween 2, H2, he did totally his own thing. I still think you've got to make a good movie. I think this one is a good movie. I think Child's Play is a good movie. I gave it a 3 out of 5, which I think some people these days, when you give something a 3 out of 5, they think you've crapped all over it. No, 3-star movie is a good movie. I think it's good. I
think it'll grow on you a little bit, honestly, too, Brian. Because I think, just like me, I think the design and the approach of the doll, when you watch it a second time and you kind of have that going in, you know what to expect, I think you'll enjoy it more, too.
Yeah, I've got a feeling it will warm. I will warm to it a bit more. But like I say, 3-star film. It's not to be sniffed at. I enjoyed it. It was good. There's room for improvement, I think. But yeah, no, I'd be happy to see another one. I've not given any film in the franchise any less than a 3. So overall, I do think it's a very solid franchise.
Cool. This should be a very interesting question. So we got Brie Larson's Taint. Very interesting name there. Do you think Rob Zombie will make 32 after 3 from Hell becomes the sleeper hit of the year? I would bet a lot of what I own that this is not going to become the sleeper hit of the year, because even Rob Zombie fans have seen what he's released so far, and it's like, God, dude, do you have anything to show us? So, and I don't. It's concerning to me that we still don't know anything about this movie, with this being probably his most recognizable franchise aside from Halloween, the Firefly family. But no, even if this movie is one of his bigger hits, I don't think he's going to go back and make a sequel to 31, because 31 is one of the movies that I think even Rob Zombie fans dislike the most. And certainly people who don't like Rob Zombie fans despised it. So I just don't see any reason why he would go back to that. I feel like if he does this, he's going to go back and start doing more original stuff.
I'm telling you,
like
Don Mancini script with Rob Zombie directing.
You have my curiosity piqued. That's the thing, if Rob Zombie would ever direct a movie that somebody else wrote, especially the screenplay and the dialogue, dude, I would be morbidly curious how good that thing is, because the guy has got an eye for directing. He's got style. He's got, he can move the camera around. He's got the knowledge there. It's just a script that always screws him. And he's got such creative control and such of an ego to a degree where it's like, I don't think he's ever going to let that go. This is my movie. Nobody's putting any ideas in this but me.
Grave Warmer, $2 in the super chat. What remake would you guys like to see next, if any?
I would actually like them to have another crack at Psycho. Just because that's a beloved franchise of mine, and I think it's been out of the game too long. And I think that the last time they did a remake of that, they went in completely the wrong approach, which is to literally do a scene-for-scene remake, which is the single most pointless kind of remake known to man. But I like what they did with a TV series, Bates Motel. If you can do something like Bates Motel, a TV series, but up on the big screen, I'd be well up for that.
That's a Universal property too, and Universal's got their hands on Jordan Peele. Get those two to make that. Go ahead. Is this guy the next coming? Go ahead. Let's see it. I know you don't. Put your money where your mouth. I'm being serious. All right, you guys think Jordan Peele's the next Hitchcock? Here you go. Here's Hitchcock's probably most famous horror movie. Run with it. Yep.
I'd be up for a Psycho remake. I think they got to get some time to distance from Bates Motel, because it feels like it just ended not too long ago. And I really loved Bates Motel. And I like quite a few of the Psycho movies too, so I would be up for that. My pick would actually be a movie that I don't like, so I want to see it remade to see if somebody can make a version that I do like, and that's Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs. For the longest time, my answer to what movie should be remade is It, and please do not flood the damn comments with "it's not a remake, it's a readaptation." I can't stand that shit. But anyway, my answer now that we have It, the remake, is The People Under the Stairs, because I've given this movie like 3 shots and it just doesn't work for me. And a lot of people love it, and it just, for whatever reason, it just doesn't quite click with my interests. But I think the central story, I think the ideas there are worth revisiting again. It's a movie it's beloved by horror fans, but it's not even anywhere close to a household name where you could easily revamp it and introduce it to a new audience and kind of get people interested in it again. And I do think that the social context of it regarding, the Harlem side of things would be pretty relevant today. So I think that they could, if you could get somebody with a lot of style, with like get somebody that can tell a story like Jordan Peele, but also has some style like maybe a Fede Alvarez, and you could do a really cool remake of that, I think. So that would be my answer.
A Nightmare on Elm Street.
I don't want a remake of A Nightmare
They're
again.
they're gonna have to. What are they gonna do? A sequel to what? 2010?
Well, I'll take a reboot where they just start out of absolutely nowhere, like where you get Dream Warriors, where Freddy's just doing his thing. I just don't want them to remake the original film again, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they just, out of all at least there's Friday the 13th talk, Nightmare on Elm Street, it's just like, guys, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Everybody's on the field. Let's go.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, if that would be my number one thing, is just another Freddy movie. I just don't want them to go and be like, okay, we got to have, Nancy again. We got to go through and we got to try to do some of the kills again. We got to show Freddy's origins again. And
wasn't there a clickbait article where Robert Englund said he's open to voicing at least once more?
It was misquoted. Basically what he's saying, he's like, look, anything's possible. Like, I might have one more in me, but I don't know. Like, it's the most non-committal answer ever, and everybody was like, Robert Englund confirms he's back for another one. And I don't want Robert Englund back. Like, I bow at the feet of Robert Englund, but I have had enough of the Robert Englund Freddy. And I feel like it's time for, and don't blame, what the hell? I'm missing his name. The guy that did the remake.
Jackie Earle Haley? Jackie Earle
Haley. Yeah. Don't blame Jackie Earle Haley for that movie, because I think he's the best part of it for sure.
Yeah.
If you get somebody that seriously knows Nightmare, writes a good script, knows the character of Freddy, and they give it to somebody who I think should be at least mostly unknown, that can kind of become the character.
Jordan Peele has professed his love for Nightmare on Elm Street. He's not unknown though. Yeah.
I would be up for that. You got that guy. Look, I really liked Get Out. I had my issues with Us, but if you get a filmmaker that can make movies of that caliber to take over Nightmare on Elm Street, I don't care what my issues with Us are. Yes, sign me up, please. So you get a guy that can tell a story like that and has all the eye for the different, all the little details in the background that you could peel back for 2 years watching the movie. Give him Freddy. Yes, thank you. So
peel back.
Hashtag peel back.
We missed a super chat there as well, by the way. Nathan Arati asked, do you think they'll replace Mark Hamill for the sequel?
I don't think so, because then they would just that would take away one of the biggest marketing aspects of the movie. That was one of the big things that, regardless how many people said they were on board for this movie since the beginning with these polls, Mark Hamill was the big thing that tipped the needle. They announced Mark Hamill, and I got so many comments on videos. Now I'm interested. I was skeptical. Now I'm cool with it. And, to me, Mark Hamill did very good for what they wanted him to do, but he has a lot of potential for his version of Chucky that hasn't even been tapped yet. So it would be idiotic for them to cast him aside for Joe Blow voice actor.
And his schedule's free as of January, so why not?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think not. Let me see here. Keep the beard growing, Brian. Looks good. Let's see if we got any more here. Do you think Chucky was hiding in the third act, Cody? No, I don't. We covered that a little bit. I think all of us were in agreement. That's a little bit too out there of a setup for a movie that can easily explain his return.
So Friday the 13th, they're just waiting. There's stuff. If Friday the 13th figures their court stuff out tomorrow, you could expect something in 2020.
And there's a lot of fan films in the work too.
Right.
So even if they don't get their shit together, there's plenty of Jason coming your way if you can enjoy fan films.
Yeah, I'm fine. They're gonna figure it out because if they don't, they're stupid. Because there's money on the table, and from what I understand, there's stuff just waiting to be released. So Friday the 13th it's okay. You just gotta wait on these two money-hungry clowns.
Yep. DB Legends Man, do you think that Jordan Peele will have his flop with his next movie? He's had a very successful duo in movies so far. Not if he makes a good movie.
People are too far up his ass to let him off.
Well, yeah, if you're talking financial, will it flop? No, not in a way. Will it be his worst film so far? Who the hell knows? I mean, I don't know. You can't answer that question. Yeah. What if?
I need a premise.
No. Yeah, all you got to do is put Jordan Peele, a film by Jordan Peele, and people go.
Yeah, how did Signs do opening? Like he is our generation's answer to M. Night, so I guess you could just compare what Signs was. Well, first two were good, and I'll
take early M. Night and now M. Night. Let's cut out that little.
Leave the middle out.
Yeah, leave the middle out. Let's see here. I want to see a reboot of Puppet Master. That maybe
they just did that again, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't know if that was a reboot or not. I've only seen the first one. Yeah, I've only seen the first one. Do you think we're going to get an extended cut for Child's Play 2019 because that third act seemed rushed? What I've heard is that third act was actually reshot after test audiences, so that might be why it felt a little bit rushed. But will you get an unrated cut? I would assume so. I don't think there's ever been, in a long time, a Chucky movie that has been released that didn't have an unrated cut, or a slasher film for that matter. I mean, Friday the 13th had the killer cut, so especially if it's successful, that's just more marketing, more blood and gore, more scenes. Buy it, please. Mm-hmm. We got another super chat. Caitlin, how far should they take the MGM Child's Play franchise? Should they just do a solid trilogy? As long as the movies are good, I'll take as many as they'll make. If they start to stumble, then yeah, cut it off while it's not terrible. But it's hard to say as like a future thing. I mean, they made, in Brian's mind, they've made 8 good Child's Play films. So I mean, there's no reason to stop if nobody's telling you to. Favorite comic book movie? Mine is Logan. I already know Brian's, but we can go around the horn. Brian?
Dark Knight trilogy.
No, that's one. That's no. One out of those 3.
The Dark Knight. So I mean, his first answer would probably still fit.
I agree. The Dark Knight is my favorite comic book movie.
My favorite comic book film is actually Winter Soldier. Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to go into why, but that one's my favorite.
It'd make the top 10.
Oh, yeah. Close second is Logan. Do you think the Child's Play TV series will do better than Cult of Chucky? No, I don't. This is why. You already had a very shaky fan base after Seed. Curse brought a lot of people back into Chucky's camp, and quite literally, Cult split the fan base. You pretty much had half of them that loved it, and half of them that hated it. And that tends to be the crowd that you have with this remake, where the half that was pissed from Cult said, bring on the remake. The half that loved Cult said, screw the remake, I want another follow-up to Cult. I don't have any confidence in them going to the Sci-Fi Channel. I don't know how they're going to have Chucky in a TV series work. It might be awesome. I've said before, if it's awesome, I will be the first person online saying that it was kick-ass. But I don't have faith in the idea. And just the fact that it's still Don Mancini stuck on the same property that he's, for a lot of us, has been driving into the ground with his control, I don't have any reason to be faithful in it. So I don't think it's going to be as successful as Cult of Chucky or as good. I I don't know what to expect. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think when you take a franchise like that has been movies and you throw it to television, I don't know. It makes me a bit nervous.
Brian, how is Critters for you? Did you watch any of the Critters episodes?
I've not. That trailer, man, was just disgusting.
Unrelated question.
Yeah, it was just. The footage I've seen from that series just looks atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. Yeah. The special effects in it don't even look as good as the original movie, which came out in the 80s. It's like...
And that's one of the things, too, with budget. Like, when you look at where Child's Play has gone, the Universal franchise, so they went from theatrical, then they go to VOD, and you can't... Despite Curse being a good movie, and a lot of us liking Cult... You can see the budget difference in those films. Yeah. And you can see the restrictions there in the acting, in the animatronics, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So, to me, when you go from theatrical to VOD, you're downgrading. When you go from VOD to TV, it's yet another downgrade. Yeah. Like, you can't tell me Sci-Fi is going to have a bigger budget than Universal for VOD. So, to me, it's like...
When your big selling point is, hey, it's the original guy... Like, that's not enough for me. You got footage or pictures? I know what that guy's name is, but give me more than, hey, it's the original guy. Don't worry about that movie over there. We got something coming.
Yeah.
Give me some photos or something. Sneak peek, teaser. They got nothing, and it's kind of freaky.
Slaughter Cinema asked a question that I've seen pop up a lot that I think a lot of people misunderstand. He says, I thought MGM only owns the rights to the OG Child's Play. Yes, but that does not mean that they can't make a sequel to their own film. I think a lot of people are taking it as they can only have the rights to make one film, and they just can't step on the toes of Child's Play 2 through Cult. They can't do anything that those films did. They can't take any titles. They probably can't repeat any kills. Which is one of the reasons probably why they went in such a different direction, so that they kind of have carte blanche to go their own direction and not get shoehorned or painted into a corner. So yeah, they have the legal ability to make a sequel to this 19 remake. The fact that they only own the rights to the first movie doesn't change that.
Yeah, there's like a water design in the chat right now with
What?
There's 3 super chats in a row.
Oh, wow. Cameron Minter. Better writing would have made Chucky bigger. Like bigger size?
Physically?
Or big? Yeah, I'm confused.
Box office?
Bigger box office.
He's not an in-house. He's not Coca-Cola.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with the writing. I think it just has to do with the level of recognition that Chucky has. A little bit with it being in the summer season. A little bit with it being the fact that you had half of the fan base that took a stance not to go see the movie. And it's still doing pretty damn good despite all of that. So, Grave Warmer. I think we'd all agree Blumhouse is pretty reputable. Are you surprised that the synopsis of the Black Christmas remake is coming from underneath Blumhouse? I'm not quite sure what you're asking as far as surprise. We could talk about the Black Christmas remake that's coming out. I'm a little off on it because I was not a fan of Black Xmas. I don't think any of us were. We were all 3 of us were against.
You can watch Brian and I experience it in real time. I forgot where we did it, but
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
for the first time.
Yeah. So Brian, CP, and myself really did not like Black Xmas at all, but I think all 3 of us really liked the original. As far as Blumhouse taking a crack at this, fast tracking it for Christmas. To me, I was on board with it enough to give it a chance, especially with the casting of Imogen Poots, because I really like her a lot. But to me, it was the synopsis that kind of turned me off, because it just feels very Me Too-ish.
Dude,
it's like it's like there's a killer on a college campus, but this time the girls are fighting back. And to me, my argument, I did a video, and I was like, look, there's a reason why we have the term final girl. Like, female empowerment has always been heavy.
Yeah,
in
horror's
horror.
just fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah, they never had to lead with that. Like, our girl in this movie is going to kick some ass on the killer. It's like, well, that's kind of what we expect at this point, because there's a reason why we don't say final guy. And most movies in the 80s especially, which is where most slasher films tend to derive their inspiration from, came with a strong female character that kicked ass in the third act. So the fact that they're kind of front-loading that just feels like they're just trying to appeal to the social side of things and not necessarily focusing on what can we do to tell a modern version of this story. And it doesn't even...
The flipping original Black Christmas is more modern than most films now. You got the whole pro-choice angle in there. Never mind just the Me Too stuff.
Yeah. It's June, and I'm already sick of these shoehorned women listen, I'm no female chauvinist, whatever the hell the term is for somebody who hates women, but it's getting to a point where it's just like shoehorned and forced into movies where it's like, guys, we get it. Girls are awesome. Can you please stop reminding us in every chance you get? And this is only June. By the time that thing comes out, who knows what other movies will make this point just beaten to death. It was just, what was it, last week? Men in Black, there's 2 moments where it's just like, guys, we get it. Stop.
Yeah.
There's so many boxes now, though, that studios have to tick. That it becomes annoying, and you see it in all these films. You could almost have a tick sheet, and you watch a film and you tick it off. We've got the Chinese market, we've got racial demographic, we've got women's lib, we've got the transgender stuff, we've got it's just like, give it a rest. Just pick one issue and make your film about that. Stop ticking all these flipping boxes. Does me head in.
Somebody had a super chat before. Brie Larson's Taint wrapped $2. Actually, Cody, sci-fi is the A24 of television, and I think that was sarcasm. So, at least I hope it was.
I hope it was sarcasm. Otherwise, I got some sci-fi to catch up on, because that is not the reputation I know. That's Sharknadoville. But yeah, I'm with it. Like, I still will probably see it. I mean, all of us are going to see it. Let's be honest. But it just, for a movie that was so damn good, that original, it just feels like if you're leading with that, you're kind of missing the point of the movie, and you're just calling it, like the argument that people have with Child's Play. They're just cashing in on the name, and it has nothing to do with Child's Play. I highly disagree with that, because I think the movie has way too many comparisons and way too many themes that Child's Play goes for. It's just the doll's different. This, just going off that synopsis, it could end up being totally different when the movie comes out, which they haven't even shot yet. Just going off that synopsis, it feels like it's a totally different movie that they're just calling Black Christmas because it happens on a college. And it's like, well, okay, we'll see. But yeah, I don't know if we answered your question, but that's all of our thoughts on Black Christmas with what little bit we know now. Let's see here. Let's do 2 more questions and we'll wrap it up.
Black Christmas is another movie that's going to have really hard competition, just like Toy Story kind of annihilated Child's Play. Star Wars is going to just chew up whatever the hell is in its way. So
this isn't one of the 2, but we got Cody should do a video response to Halloween 2020. I will do one when I'm done with Chucky. I kind of thought it was a dick move for them to be like, hey guys, Halloween's coming out. Oh yeah, that other movie's coming out this weekend too. So everybody was like, oh, Chucky who?
Call it H2020.
Yeah, there you go. Boom. Let me see here. What do you guys think about the new Joker movie?
Brian.
Ooh, very excited. Very excited.
It was confirmed to be rated R too.
Oh man, just keeps getting better. It just you couldn't have a better actor in that role right now. The style of it looks spectacular. It looks like a Scorsese film, quite frankly. I know it's had a lot of inspiration from Scorsese's work. I couldn't be more excited. It really looks like DC is thinking outside the box at the minute. They're not kind of they're not forcing all of their movies now at this point to have that same feel. They're willing to say, you know what? Let's let this director put his spin on it. Let's let that director put their spin on it. And that's, to me, is what's going to separate them from Marvel at this point.
It feels like they're doing what you were talking about earlier, where they're kind of testing the waters with Joker and see if it succeeds critically, fan-wise, financially, and if it does, then they can say, okay, well, we have our DC universe that we need to focus on, but we can also do The Dark Knight Returns. We can also do these other little one-offs that have nothing to do with what's going on over here, and people will still pay to see them. So, I'm excited for it. I am a little bit worried about the aftermath of it, though, because I think if Joaquin Phoenix does what Joaquin Phoenix does, that any other version of Joker we get in this universe is going to be like, it's. I don't know if Jared Leto's coming back. There's a million different answers to that question, but that's the only thing I'm worried about, because I am invested very much in the actual universe, and I do think when we get Batman rolling, we do need to have a Joker present in that universe. But if Joaquin Phoenix is like rivaling or possibly even arguably better than what Heath Ledger gave us, God forbid, this is going to be a very hard sell to make anybody else be a Joker that we invest in. But other than that, I'm very excited. It's one of my most anticipated for the second half of the year.
Baby steps. Baby steps.
And this, I missed a good question. Somebody asked about the trailer for Dr. Sleep. So I know Brian's a big Kubrick fan, a big Shining fan.
Are you a big Kubrick fan, Brian?
I am indeed, yes.
Sorry.
I know Brian better than you. But I'm pretty sure CP has the same respect or love for The Shining. I mean, I think all of us are on the same page. So what did you guys think of the Dr. Sleep trailer? Are you looking forward to it? Did you read the book? Any concerns?
Paper
Mike
movies.
Flanagan directing.
Never read the book. I don't think I'd want to be honest, because Stephen King was always dead set against Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is not only my favourite horror film of all time, it's also my favourite Kubrick film of all time. So, yeah. The trailer looks like a genuine sequel to Kubrick's movie. So
Go figure.
That's what interests me. So whether the book was any good or not, I don't care. I just want the movie to be good, and I want it to really feed in to that Kubrick movie, and it looks like it's going to do that.
Yeah, they got like direct recreations of scenes right from Kubrick's movies, so they're definitely going for, as many people like to say, adaptation. They're definitely playing off of the previous movie.
Visuals, yeah.
Yeah, so they're going for the movie crowd, not the book crowd. But yeah, I'm excited for it. The trailer didn't necessarily like blow my mind, but it certainly looked good. Mike Flanagan's a director that has not done any wrong so far for me. I like Ewan McGregor very much. It seems like an interesting story. I have no idea what happens in the book, but just as a sequel to The Shining in the way that they presented in that trailer, I'm intrigued. Definitely intrigued.
No shaky
CP?
cam. No shaky cam. I'm intrigued. The Shining is pretty good. I'm fine with the way it ended. So I'm intrigued. I'll give it an honest shake. But again, it's like Brian said. Stephen King was all my. This isn't my book. This isn't my book. But we're using visuals from the movie. So what are we talking about here? You're doing a sequel to your book, but this movie is using visual cues from the movie that you disown. So
I'm sure they're going to follow the storyline that King wrote out, but I think the movie producers are smart enough to know that people are going to recognize shit from the movie a lot sooner, and that's going to get people more excited than just putting red rum on a door and we're supposed to know what's going on.
Because just as Stephen King will admit that the television movie in 1997 was way more successful than the 1980 film.
Oh, obviously. So we got our last question from Brie Larson's Taint, and then we will wrap this thing up. Do you think they should remake the Sleepaway Camp series? They really do some social issues on the transgender community, and where are the Dr. Giggles remake at? I'll answer your second question first. I've never even seen the original, so I don't think anybody's that's a mistake.
It's a bit of a spoiler, but no.
The original Dr. Giggles.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah, not Sleepaway Camp.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen Sleepaway Camp 1 through 3. I was like, wow, Dr. Giggles.
And I was
gets
like,
that kind of a...
no, because they
oh my god,
they
dude, bro.
They mentioned
Yeah.
transgender. I'm like, oh, forget watching it
yeah.
now.
Yeah. But yeah.
I haven't seen.
So
Dr.
I've never seen Dr. Giggles. I don't know what the stance that is in the horror community, if that's like some unsung classic, but I would imagine Brian probably hasn't seen it either.
I've not seen Dr. Giggles or Sleepaway Camp. I do know what happens in Sleepaway Camp, but yeah.
Okay, so that for 3 for 3, not even seeing Dr. Giggles, I think that gives you your answer to that one. Do you think they should remake Sleepaway Camp? I don't think you can, because I don't think they would go as far nowadays, and I don't think the shock would be there. It would just be. I mean, look, Sleepaway Camp is a love it or hate it film. It's really on the nose, cheesy, low budget, hammy ass acting. I would never argue with anybody that says that movie is absolute garbage, trash, dumpster fire. But I really love it. It's one of my favorite camp slashers. I love it for all the weirdness of it. But part of the linchpin of that film is the ending. Like, without that ending, nobody would be talking about Sleepaway Camp. So I don't know if you could remake it and even have near the same impact, and I don't think they would go as far. So I don't. I would love to see the person that takes on that task of remaking a Sleepaway Camp film.
You can't, for the same reason we were talking about earlier. The whole ultra tight left wing influence on Hollywood. You cannot have somebody who's transgender be a villain. It just won't fly. I mean, if we have to say that women are great in every movie now, there's no way you're going to have somebody who's transgender be a villain in a movie.
Yeah.
It just won't fly. I'm not saying I'm not down with it. I'm just saying they won't make that movie in Hollywood. They won't make that movie. Yeah,
they'll see it as sending the wrong message.
Right.
So yeah, I get it. Brian, what do you think? I know you haven't seen it. I would go on a limb and say you would hate it. The basic storyline of a Friday the 13th style film with a big surprise at the end that the villain is transgender. What are your thoughts on remaking that?
Yeah, I just don't think it would hit that hard today. Yeah. I just think most people are past caring, to be honest, about that. They're sick of hearing it. It's just like
that movie's an ending. That's all that movie is. That series is an ending. Yeah,
it is. I've not seen it, and I already know that's the I've seen that still image of the face. And it's like great. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I feel like if they remade it, they'd end up Black Xmasing it and just like proper, just show you everything about the bad guy, girl, whatever, and then lead from there, which would take all of the suspense out of it, all of the surprise, and it just, I don't know. I'm barely down with the original, which I've not even seen, so I can't see a remake doing much.
You've shocked me before, so I'm not going to put all my eggs in the basket, but I would lean heavily on you not liking it very much. But it then again, you might have the whole the Silent Night Deadly Night effect, where you get what they're going for and you enjoy it for that. So who knows? I'd be fascinated for a review on that one. But so I think we all pretty much agree on that one. That would be a Pandora's box that I don't think anyone's trying to open anytime soon. So that's going to be it for this stream, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Had a lot of super chats. Thank you guys for the support.
JJ's Gaming was another super chat for £3. Scream TV show's back. Trailer just dropped.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thank you so much for the super chat. But yeah, I've never seen any of the TV shows, so I'm not sure about that one. But yeah, so thank you guys. Go see Child's Play if you have not, because it is worth seeing. Money. Give it a fair shake. Help support horror. Get us more of this stuff. Thank you to Brian and CP for joining me for this. Definitely wanted to get a stream with us together. We couldn't get a Scream stream together, so I wanted to get whatever we could thrown together, because Child's Play will get some respect, damn it. We did like 9 Halloween streams, so
Yeah,
I'm gonna give Lee hell whenever he's back full swing on YouTube and be like, all right, bitch, we're doing like 3 Child's Play reboot thing here. So yeah. Thank you guys so much. Like I said, in less than an hour over on WILIscredia, join us for show business. We're going to be talking about box office that just was this past weekend. Probably talk about the Child's Play movie again, get some more different perspectives on it, and have some fun over there. So everybody in this chat, I expect you to see you over there in an hour. Brian, CP, you guys want to take us out with stuff that you guys got in the works? Brian, I know you have like 8 months of back catalog already ready.
Yeah, so over on Bryan Lomax Movie Talk, I've got my Scream ranking dropping tomorrow, and then starting next week, I think will either be my Final Destination series or my Texas Chainsaw Massacre series.
Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. I've still got 3 movies of that to watch before I can. It's just I'm finding it really hard to get to those movies. Over on my other channel, the Movie Evangelist, on Wednesday night, I will be dropping a video essay on the film In Bruges, which is one of my favourite movies.
Cool. WILIscredia?
Yeah.
What can we expect?
I'll be live in 50 minutes talking about box office. And then, I'll be talking about Audition relatively soon, next week or 2.
Yep. And it kind of got put on the back burner because of all the Child's Play madness that I've been busting my ass on. But we do have a collaboration coming up.
Right.
So if you want to plug that really quick, probably I'd say within 2 weeks we'll have it hammered out.
Yeah, Brain Scan. We're going to do a dual review of Brain Scan.
Yeah. And we have a good idea for some intros, so it should be fun. Yeah, guys, so it's still Chucky week over here. Chucky week's going to become Chucky month on Cody Leach. So we got...
year!
Yeah, exactly. So we've got ranking the Chuckies. We got ranking the Child's Play kills probably next weekend because I need time to finish that one. I'm going to be ranking Chucky's deaths. And I'm also going to be doing best Chucky lines, probably like top 15. And eventually my pitch video essay idea for a sequel, Child's Play 2.0, whatever you want to call it. So look out for all of that coming in the next week or so. After that, I'm going to be starting some franchise reviews. I will just say that. And expect more 31 on the 31st teasers to come in your way. We're going to have some fun. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the super chats. And see us over on Show Business here in 45 minutes.